famous Martello Museum clung to the stone walls, and in the basement, where sunlight never touched, shadows stretched longer than they should have. There, behind a thick pane of glass, sat Robert the doll, seemingly harmless in his child-sized sailor suit, clutching his worn, stuffed lion. But visitors knew better than to trust appearances. It wasn't just the stories, no, it was the feeling that radiated from the doll. His black eyes followed every movement, his stitched mouth frozen in a neutral line, seemed to be hiding something beneath its silent seams. The sign beneath his display case warned visitors to ask for permission before taking a photo. A strange, almost absurd rule until you've heard the story. In 1897, the Otto family moved into a large home nearby. They were wealthy, and like many at the time, they employed servants. The family's young boy, Robert Eugene Otto, or Gene as they called him, was a bright artistic child. But something changed the day a Bohemian maid, one the family had mistreated and dismissed, handed Gene a gift. The gift was a doll, stitched meticulously with wool and cotton. Wood, wool, and cotton. The doll, dressed like a sailor, was named Robert by the boy after himself. At first, it seemed like nothing more than a thoughtful gift for a child, but soon strange things began to happen in the Otto household. Gene's parents would often hear giggles echo through the halls, but when they checked on their son, they'd find only Robert sitting in his usual spot, gazing blankly at the room. Neighbors reported seeing the doll moving from window to window when the family was away. The parents would hear their son talking in his room, conversations, not just one-sided, but with a second voice, high-pitched and almost human, but no one else was ever there. Gene insisted Robert did it. Over time, the Otto family's servants began quitting without notice, spooked by the strange occurrences. The once bustling home became quiet, save for the sound of soft phantom footsteps and occasional giggles and the unsettling clatter of furniture being moved without explanation. Robert's sailor suit became a ghostly fixture in Gene's bedroom, always in the corner, always watching. The nights were the worst. Gene's screams pierced the air, waking his parents from sleep. When they rushed to his room, they'd find the furniture overturned. Gene's sheets tangled in a heap, and their child terrified, pointing at the foot of his bed. "It's Robert," he would sob, his small body trembling. And there at the foot of the bed, the doll sat. His black buttoned eyes glared up at the parents, innocent in appearance, but filled with something unspeakable. A quiet menace seemed to radiate from the stitched sailor. After years of torment, Gene's parents had had enough. They locked the doll in the attic, sealing it away in a dusty corner. But even there, Robert was not silent. Visitors to the house reported hearing footsteps pacing above them, as though something or someone was walking back and forth in the attic. Giggles would echo through the halls, followed by a chilling silence. Gene's friends stopped visiting. The family became isolated, shrouded by the dark presence that seemed to hang over their home. Years passed, and Gene grew older. Though his connection to Robert never fully broke. After Gene's parents died, he inherited the house and moved back in with his wife. Though he was a grown man now, Gene could not resist Robert's pull. He took the doll out of the attic, setting him in his own chair in the corner of his artist's studio. It was as if Gene had forgotten the nightmares of his youth, as if he couldn't see the malevolent force that still gripped the doll. Gene's wife, however, was not blind. She claimed she could hear Robert whispering at night. She felt watched, stalked by the doll's unseen gaze. And whenever Robert was left alone, the energy in the house grew darker. Her pleas to Gene to get rid of the doll were met with stubborn refusal. Robert says, Gene would say, in a voice that wasn't quite his own. In 1972, Gene died, leaving the house and Robert to be discovered by a new family. A 10-year-old girl, eager to explore her new home, found the doll tucked away in the attic. She didn't think twice before bringing him downstairs. But soon, like Gene before her, the nightmares began. The little girl claimed the doll tortured her, moving on its own, whispering terrible things in her ear while she tried to sleep. She would wake up to find Robert sitting on the edge of her bed, his black eyes gleaming in the moonlight. She tried locking him in the closet, but each morning she would find him somewhere else, always closer, always watching. She pleaded with her parents, begging them to get rid of the doll, but no one believed her. Robert had found a new victim. Over 30 years later, the girl, now grown, steadfastly claims that the doll was alive and that it wanted to kill her. The family moved out not long after her torment began, leaving the house and Robert behind. The legend of Robert the doll began to fade. The stories began becoming local lore, told in hushed whispers among the residents of Key West. But Robert was not forgotten. In the mid-1990s, he was donated to Fort East Martello Museum, where he was placed under lock and key in a glass case. There, in the dimly lit basement of the museum, Robert the doll resides, his sailor suit pristine, his stuffed lion clutched tightly in his arms. Yet despite the thick glass that separates him from the visitors, his reputation for mischief endures. Museum staff claim that Robert moves within the case, shifting positions when no one is looking. Visitors who fail to ask for his permission before taking a photo often find that their cameras malfunction, or worse, strange misfortunes befall them after they leave. Some report hearing faint giggles as they walk through the basement, while others swear they've seen the doll's expression change. Hundreds of letters are sent to Robert each year, all apologizing to him for disrespecting his presence. Some visitors leave offerings, candy, money, even trinkets, hoping to appease whatever dark force resides within him. But Robert remains silent, ever watchful, his black eyes reflecting the faces of those who dare to come close. The rumors of curses are hard to ignore. One man, after mocking Robert in the museum, returned home to find his life falling apart accidents, illnesses, even a house fire plagued him until he wrote an apology to the doll. Another woman, after laughing at the eerie warning, suffered a car crash on her way back from the museum. For more than a century, Robert the Doll has remained at the center of terrifying encounters. His origins are shrouded in mystery. Was it the servant girl's curse? Was it Jean's terrible psyche that breathed life into the doll? Or is there something far older, far darker at work? No one knows for certain, but one thing is clear. Robert the Doll is not just an ordinary toy. His presence commands respect. His gaze follows those who come too close. And for those who doubt the stories, well, Robert is always waiting. His glass case, the only thing that separates him from the living world for now.